Well, hello there. Beads, brother. Beads.
Are you shitting me with that?
You can do it, I believe in you. Damn it. What am I trying to say? Part 1. Ew. Ow. Damn it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to be fitting up this fuel cell in the Datsun. The only things you're going to need is a fuel cell, an angle grinder, a couple of flap discs, couple of cutoff wheels, and honestly some creativity, because not all of these are going to go in the same. And then I hit it with a little bit of spray paint at the end so it wouldn't flash rust. And this is the end result. This is part 1 of how to install a fuel cell. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss parts 2 and possibly 3, depending on how long this takes. Alright, let's jump into the episode. Alright guys, so we've got the fuel cell mocked up in spot. The wood is actually holding underneath it, but it fits in here and it's perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another one of these bars. We're going to measure it out here. We're going to make sure it fits. Put it in place. We'll move this out, tack it in, probably refit it one more time, make sure that nothing moved on us, and then we'll be able to weld up the whole thing. So we're gonna get to doing that. That's tacked in place. So we are going to throw the fuel cell back in here, make sure it's good to go, and then just gonna finish up welding it. Oh yeah. So it's got a little bit of play. What we'll end up doing is we're gonna have those spacers in here anyway that are gonna hold this down, and we'll also have a strap over the top. But that'll be done later. What's really nice to know is it fits right now. So what we can go ahead and do is weld up our existing pieces, and then tomorrow, because it's getting pretty late on me today, tomorrow I will come back and make all the support pieces, weld all of those in, then we'll make our little spacers and weld those in, and we should be good to go on this fuel cell, or at least for the first part anyway. Alright guys, so I've moved the wood that was holding up the fuel cell because, you know, you don't really want to weld and have sparks around things that are flammable like that. So just make sure if you're holding something up with wood, if you're welding, they don't mix well. So now we're just going to weld all of these, and then I'm going to go home tonight because I'm freaking tired. So on these inside welds, we didn't have a lot of room anyway, but we probably left enough for these welds to, if anything, kind of like sure up, and the little bit of play we left in there, there'll probably be even less. If it doesn't fit, however, we'll just take a flat disc to it, and that way it'll fit in here just like it did before, and it'll be all welded up. Also, my upside down welding is horrendous, but it's got to be done. So after we get it structurally sound, that's when we're going to call this episode good. It'll probably be part 1 of 2 or 3. So I'm going to finish up these last couple of welds tonight. Tomorrow I'll come back and we'll do a couple of supports that I've already have flat disced off to the side. That way we can get those, go ahead and get those in and done, as well as the spacers. And then we're going to flap disc it all, make it look pretty, and paint it so it doesn't rust. And we won't have to deal with that ever again, which is great. And that'll be good for this part of the episode. I will see y'all tomorrow. Alright guys, we are back here about 4 days later or whatever. Had a pretty busy week, but I've already measured out the supports that I want to put in here at 5, 5 1/8, and 6 5/8, or 6 3/8. So we're going to mark those out, cut them, and go ahead and tack those in the car. The last 3 videos, I really just don't have the... Alright, now that we're done making our supports, what we're going to do is make a bunch of little spacers to go in between the nuts on the fuel cell. So we're going to cut them in. This is the last of our bar, and then we have one more little piece. Now we're going to cut them into 3-inch segments. We're going to cut them into 3-inch segments, and then we'll be able to put those in place, tack them in place, make sure everything fits. Probably don't have enough bars to do what I want today, but it'll give everybody a general idea, and you can put as many as you want. So we're going to do that. Right now I'm just taking off all the edges. It's not about the size, but I don't want all these burrs on there when I'm welding it on there. We'll probably go over the whole thing with the flat disc, make sure that everything's smoothed out anyway, but this just kind of takes care of this process. Alright guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tack in our support bars, and we'll full send on the welds, and then we'll put our spacers in here, and I'll show you all how we're going to do that. We're going to put on the safety gear, man, and use these magnets to just cause me heartburn. And nobody touch anything. Oh shit. Ain't going anywhere. I'll finish up these last couple welds, and then I'll show you how we're going to put the spacers in. Oh good. Okay, so some of my welds are a little too large, so I'm going to go in and grind those down just a little bit, and then we're going to fit this in here, and then we'll deal with the spacers. So what I'm about to do now is take my marker, because where all these little screws are, as I've said before, I don't want these being what's holding up the fuel cell. There's a little bottom lip, that's what I want holding up the fuel cell. Plus we'll make some supports that go underneath. That'll be in a later video, because I have a lot more things to do for the car right now, and this will be just fine for the time being. Because it's nowhere close to street legal, so if we drive it, it'll only be driven in Mexico. Promise. So, but what the idea is, we're going to come in here. I'm going to mark where the bolt is, and then I'm going to try to reach in here and mark each side of the bolt. That way I can see it. Super easy to see each side of the bolt. That way when we put the spacer in there, I know it's nowhere close to where it actually resides. As I said before, we didn't have enough square tubing. I have to go to Home Depot tomorrow anyway, so I'll pick up a little bit more square tubing that we need. But this is gonna get out again. What a surprise! Just pulling in and out of this tight spot. It's a blast. All right, guys. So here's our top-down view of everything. You can see the support bars and everything, but you can also see on here, it'll focus, like that's where the bolt is, and then that was me marking around where the bolt actually is. And I did that for all of them. That way when we take our spacer, I mean, I left plenty of room, but that way we don't actually like get too close. That way we can't fit a wrench in there. And the good thing is about these spacers is they don't have to be perfectly even. So like that one I'll probably put right there. Call it good. Then we'll be good to move on to the next step, which is getting rid of some of this, all this flash rust, because I didn't build this in one day. but I'll tell you all about that here in just a little while. Alright guys, so I came up with what I'm going to do from now. We're going to have 2 pieces on each side. There's supposed to be 4. There's supposed to be 1 here and 1 there. And then this 1 piece on this side in the middle, and these 2 side pieces. That way when we get back we can put 1 in the middle, 2 on each side, and then 2 on each side. And that way we can go ahead and get these tacked in, welded up. I just went around and made sure that they were all flush. That way when we weld it, it's not going to be impossible to put our fuel cell in anymore. So over here we had welds that connected that bar to this bar that were just like this, and I flap disced it on both sides. That way that one would actually fit. And I went ahead and did this one as well. None of the others are going to be in the way, so I will come back and do those all at the same time. So we'll weld all of these spacers in and flap disc those at the same time, make them all smooth and nice, and then we're going to take care of those little rusty spots. So I just fought off a wasp for like 20 minutes who was trying to make a nest like right there in my car. I was like, no. I may have won the battle, but we'll see about the war. So now I'm going to do what I tried to do for the past 20 minutes, and that's tack these in place. So you may have seen I tacked in here. I'll probably run little bitty ones out here and run some pretty big beads on the outside. That way we know it's in place. But we are going to have to go back and flap disc all of these on the inside to make sure that our fuel cell sits right. Alright guys, so I went through and welded all these seams. Some of them aren't pretty, some of them are, but we're going to come through and flap disc these. I also welded this in here. I welded a stitch on each side. It was about a third this way, a third that way, and that's where I kind of called it good. And then I welded the entire side on each one here from the inside to the bar on the outside. The inside stuff we're going to have to flap disc real quick. That way the fuel cell will slide in there nice and smooth. But this is plenty strong for what we need it for, especially when we add other spacers as well. So I'm not worried about welding, you know, the back side, and I spaced all of these out enough to where now it's not going to warp in at all. It never really got, you know, I never really ran a whole freaking bead because I put those tacks pretty much in the middle, so it was like a little strip, little strip, little strip, little strip, whatever. Never got hard enough to warp them in. So now we're just going to flap disc all of this, and then what we're going to do for the surface rust, so you can probably see some of it like right here. And then all it is like a little bit of flash rust because I don't know if you've ever picked up metal from Home Depot or wherever. Usually it has an oil on it, and when your hands grab it, that oil comes off. So all these spots where my hand grabbed it over and over, trying to make sure that all of these pieces fit. So what I'm going to do is, since I already have the flat disc attached, I'm just going to go over all of these real light, and then we're going to hit it with a little bit of black paint so that it won't rust like this anymore. And we'll be good to go. And that'll be the conclusion of part 1. So I was flap discing everything on here, and the camera died, and I don't know how much it picked up. I guess we'll see when we start to edit this thing. But flap disced all the insides, and as I flap disced this one died, so I'll just pick up a new one tomorrow. Not a big deal. So tomorrow we'll get these extra supports, because all I need is 2 more feet of this square tubing, and then I'll just chop it up like I did today, weld it in place, and we'll be good to go. And we'll pick up some rust reformer tomorrow because just in case I missed any little surface rust spots, I don't want this thing to ever rust or anything like that. Not that it would in my lifetime, but you know, better to be safe than sorry. And then we'll paint it and throw a little coat of clear on there like what we did with the tension rods. So I will catch y'all tomorrow. Alright guys, so we got all of these welded in. I welded them in and then grinded it down. What we're going to do now is hit it with a little bit of rust reformer, because it does have a little bit of surface rust and I don't want that to spread over time. So we'll hit that just with that. We're not going to paint it quite yet, because in part 2 of this build we'll make a carriage, you can say, underneath it to hold it in place, as well as like this top part to make sure it's not open, the car's not open to the ground, especially while we're running. So we're going to have to make, you know, some plates and whatnot to go around and seal everything from the outside. So let's hit it with some rust reformer. My tripod broke, so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera and then just show you all the end result. You get the point. Alright guys, so this is the final product here. It looks really good. It's all blacked out with the rust converter, so we won't have any more flash rusting, as well as all the areas that I flap disc down so that we could weld to the chassis. All of those has been covered. So the reason I didn't fully paint this yet, like I said before, is we're going to make a cage, so I'm just going to end up grinding some of this off and welding to it and making sure everything's good to go. It's still drying right now, so I'm not going to put the fuel cell in it. Other than that, we're good to go. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got the fuel cell in the car. Well, not really, but we've got everything fitted up so that when it's dried, it will go in the car. I really appreciate everybody that watches to the end. It really does help. Other things that help is dropping a like on the video if you liked it, or if you didn't, comment down below and tell me what I can do better and what I can improve on. Subscribe if you haven't already. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. We got a little shop upgrade next episode, so make sure you pay attention for when that's coming out. It'll probably be next week. Other than that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all next time. Later. Damn it. So close. And I will catch y'all next time.